So, I watched Michael Jordan play basketball, which honestly isn't that hard to do. His games are very easy to find on YouTube, and if you love basketball, I would highly recommend watching those games because it is important to know the history of the game that you love, and Michael Jordan is one of the most important basketball figures ever historically. But I wanted to watch Michael Jordan from a different perspective than I usually do. Michael Jordan is bigger than the sport of basketball itself in many ways. He's a cultural icon that still has an impact on culture to this day. But for me, I just wanted to remove all of it, from the shoes, to the cultural impact, to the awards, to the stats, and just watch Michael Jordan as a basketball player. And that's the problem. It's almost impossible for me to do that. Now, this isn't me saying that I don't enjoy watching Michael Jordan play basketball. In fact, that's not really what I'm saying at all. Because I really enjoy watching Michael Jordan's old games. Because on top of all of his accomplishments and numbers, he's also one of the most fun basketball players to watch ever. I might argue he's the most fun basketball player to watch ever. Words can't describe what he could do as an athlete. It's legitimately superhuman stuff. And I wonder how insane his athleticism would be in the modern era with better medicine and training methods that he didn't have back in his playing days, because he was one of the best athletes I've ever seen on tape without those modern advantages. His first step was unbelievable. He was extremely quick. He was fast with and without the basketball in his hands. I think his vertical explosion goes without question among the best ever. But what made it stand out was how fictional it all looked. All the talk about him flying through the air or gliding when he jumps, it feels that way. I've seen many great athletes, but there are only two vertical athletes I've ever seen that are unique compared to everyone else on tape. Paul George, because I don't think there's a basketball athlete I've seen that gets off the ground to the highest point of his jump the way he does. Shout out Coley Meck, who pointed that out on the Trollworthy Show episode a few weeks back. And Michael Jordan, who floated in the air in a way that just doesn't feel like it has been emulated ever since. I've seen great athletes that have had great explosion, but nothing quite feels the floaty way that Michael Jordan was jumping. His hang time was unmatched, his flexibility and body control was just as impressive as his dunks, and he made athleticism art. He had all the traits of an elite athlete. He was quick, he was fast, he was stronger than you would think based off his frame. But what made him stand out to me on tape, beyond having every athletic trait in the book, was how he made it look like an art form rather than a sporting competition. And this is also something that applied to his shot-making ability as well. From a skill perspective, he was a technician as a tough shot maker. But from an execution standpoint, he made that look like an art form. His handle was good, he had counters for every defensive look, he was unfazed by contest, and he was comfortable off balance. There wasn't a shot he wasn't capable of hitting, and honestly, from what I watched, I truly believe he would have adjusted to the three-point era well, seeing that he would have probably grown up in an era that focused on it more. And even though he wasn't a great three-point shooter in his actual career, at the same time, I do believe it speaks more about the era he played in rather than ability. Plus, I think he would thrive in today's era with the spacing and ability to draw contact, because I think he's getting to the line at historic rates in this era. When I watched the tape, I felt like there wasn't anything Michael Jordan wasn't capable of doing on the basketball court. He's one of the most complete players I've ever watched on tape, from a skill set standpoint, to an athleticism standpoint, to a mental on-court standpoint. And that's what's frustrating to me, because I can't fully tell if I feel this way because of what I've seen on tape, or if it's because I know how his career turned out. Do I think he's capable of doing anything on a basketball court because of what I've noticed on tape, from the traits that he has, to his scoring ability, to his moves and athleticism compared to others on the court? Or is it because I know he won 5 MVPs, won 6-0 in the finals, has 10 scoring titles, and is arguably the best to ever do it? I think it's a mix of both. I do think his legend and historical greatness are a factor in my viewing of him on tape the way I do. but I also think the tape does back up just how insane of a player he was numbers wise as well. I've read the stories, I've watched the documentaries, I've gone over stats, I've listened to interviews, I've watched the tape. I know how great Michael Jordan was. My problem is that I won't ever be able to watch Michael Jordan's tape in its purest form. I'll never be able to see his rise to stardom in its purest form. I'll never be able to see what his critics said during the days he couldn't overcome the Detroit Pistons through an authentic lens. I'll never be able to see what his greatness was like in real time, and it's something I want to see what was like in real time, and I'll never be able to do it. I've seen many great basketball players. I'm grateful and respect their greatness, and I'm not going to take away from anything those players have done. From LeBron James to Stephen Curry, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Kevin Durant, among many others. They all are awesome. I enjoy watching all of them play and seeing what they have accomplished in their careers. But there's just a mythological aura to what Michael Jordan did that I wish I was able to see and experience in real time. And it frustrates and bothers me that I won't be able to. So basically my problem with Michael Jordan is that I was born in 2001 and never got to see his great career in real time. I know. It's a pretty childish problem to have with a basketball player. However, I do think this idea of not being able to see what Michael Jordan's career was like does connect to a different concept, and that's the concept of hype. I'm not a fan of placing high expectations on young athletes, especially when it feels forced, but I do think that idea of creating hype is wanting that next big star and wanting to see a modern version of what a player like Michael Jordan was like. And I do think there are things that are close. LeBron James is very close in my opinion, and I think you can make the argument LeBron is the greatest player of all time, and he's truly the best basketball player I've ever seen in real time. And I do think that there are guys that could build up cases as time goes along, but there's just an aura to what Michael Jordan did when I watch the tape that makes me want things that I know I'll never have, and that really bothers me. But I would love to hear what you think about this in the comment section below. Do you think that there is a player out there that historically you watched the old tape of and was you could see what they were like in real time, what people said about them in real time, how they were viewed in their careers, and get to watch the tape in real time as they progress throughout their career? Love to hear that in the comment section below. I know for a whole generation of young NBA fans that there is a chance that LeBron is that player for them, which leaves me in denial that there's a player that I grew up watching that a whole generation that's in elementary and middle school didn't get to see the prime of. So I would love to hear if LeBron's that player for you, or if there's another player maybe. Leave that in the comment section below. With that being said, have a nice day, and I'll see you guys in the next one.